Hey guys, this is Nate. I'm doing not a P2K video. It's actually getting a lot harder now that I'm doing so many P2Ks. It's getting harder to do P2Ks that are sort of close to me. So I'm doing a P1K today. I'm doing Bosque Peak in the Manzano Mountains. It's been an interesting trip just to get here. Basically, I dropped my wife and son off at the airport. They're going to visit family, and for the sake of comfort, I decided to drive my wife's car, as you just saw, which is all-wheel drive and has decent clearance, but is still, a passenger vehicle built for comfort. And so I'm trying to hike Bosque Peak. Can't remember the name of the trail off the top of my head, but I'll get that to you later. And basically trying to drive up this road to get to the trailhead, and it gets a little sketchy at a certain point. Something I wouldn't feel bad about doing in the Jeep, but in this car, I don't know if I want to risk it. You'll see it in a minute. Okay, this is where pretty much decided that I'd hit the limits of that vehicle. Yeah, I'm pretty happy I stopped when I did. Not that I might not have actually been driving this part, but definitely not for that vehicle. All right, well, this is the Bosque trailhead, as that sign says, and doesn't really line up with where it says it's supposed to be on the map. So I kept going on the road because I could not find like a real looking trail. And this is just 30 feet down or something, and this looks like the actual Bosque trail, so I don't know what's up with that. Maybe that's supposed to be a parking area for the Bosque trail or something, I don't know. But feel pretty confident that we're now on the Bosque trail. Well, I'm gonna try to do less second person shots because I think my last video I did a little bit too much. My hand was in the way. So I'll treat you guys to more trail views this trip. But anyway, this is shaping up to be hopefully a relaxing trip. Normally with these P2Ks, you're looking at minimum 2,500 feet of elevation gain. I think this one, something only like 1,600, should be pretty relaxing. So as I said, Bosque Peak is not a P2K, peak of 2,000 feet of prominence. It's a P1K, and I'll get in a little bit more of the history later and put into context Bosque Peak with the rest of the Manzano Mountains. But you might be asking, well, if you're following my channel, you know that I've been doing P2K peaks, and with the weather getting warm, more of them are becoming accessible as the snow melts. And the fact is, like I said, I had to drop my wife and son off at the airport, and originally they were supposed to leave yesterday, which meant that I was going to actually drop them off, then drive to western New Mexico and do a P2K out there, which I'm saving that for next weekend. I'm kind of running out of P2Ks that are within, say, a 3-hour drive of where I live in Santa Fe. The only one I have left that's within that distance is Tijeras Peak, which is not really accessible until much later in the year, June, July. So thought about maybe doing Gallo Peak, but I actually have an errand to run in Albuquerque. So I thought, why not check out the Manzanos? I've already done Manzano Peak, did that last February, which was a really cool hike. But the trail I took anyway was terrible. That is, it was non-existent basically. And it was snow covered. And I forgot to bring trekking poles. Even though I was snowshoeing, I fell. But I made it to the top, which is what really matters. But I'm excited to go to the top of Bosque Peak. I've kind of wanted to go to this area ever since I saw it in an old Southwest Backpacker YouTube video. It just looks like a really cool area. I'm expecting it to be pretty windy, but not too chilly at the top. So speaking of the devil, you're getting some of our first views to the plains in the east. And you can see Gallo Peak out there in the center. And let me try to focus on it. You might be able to see Sierra Blanca and Capitan Range, or oh, we might not be able to see Sierra Blanca yet. That might just be the Capitan Range. I feel like there's Capitan Range right to the right of Gallinas, and then potentially Carrizo Peak. Sorry, I have no idea how to roll my R's. A really stunning view. I don't think that's Manzano Peak out there. I think that might be Capilla Peak. And there's Sierra Blanca, right there. So that must be Carrizo Peak, and then the Capitan Range, and Gallinas. I guess here's the wilderness boundary. The wind is picking up quite a bit. Hopefully you can hear me pretty well. It's unfortunately the windy season in New Mexico, and this elevation range, 7,500 to 10,000 feet, really bears the brunt of it. The Manzano Mountains, for those who don't know, they're just south of Albuquerque, east of the towns of Belen, Los Lunas, Bosque Farms. They're, actually historically, they're sort of considered to be the same range as the Sandia range and the Manzanitas, which are the small range just to the north of the Manzanos. They kind of sit between the Manzanos and the Sandias. I think I-40 kind of runs through there. Tijeras is kind of at the base of the Manzanitas. And at one point, the Manzanos were actually their own national forest, the Manzano National Forest. Presumably at some time they kind of consolidated a lot of different independent forests into the Cibola National Forest as it's known today. It has a lot of ranges kind of scattered around the state. So this area, you'd think it's so close to Albuquerque, it gets tons of traffic. It's not really true for a couple reasons. One, pretty much all the western accesses are on private land, Kirkland Air Force Base land, or Isleta Pueblo land. So it's pretty hard to access the Manzanos from anywhere but the east, which entails quite a long drive. It's the reason why I'm low on gas. And also, as you can tell from the road I was showing you, the maintenance is, no offense to the Forest Service, the maintenance is sort of poor out here. This trail is actually great, but like I mentioned, when I did Manzano Peak, the trail was terrible. So 4th of July Canyon gets a lot of traffic because of the maple trees, and you can kind of see some of them here. But the other areas of the forest, not so much. Actually, the Grand Enchantment Trail, if I recall correctly, runs along the crest of the Manzanos. It starts at the Superstition Mountains right outside Phoenix, and I think it terminates on Sandia Crest. So I know it's a relatively popular trail, not as big as the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, even Continental Divide Trail, but gets a lot of attention, relatively speaking. And of course, this is a beautiful way to end it, in my opinion. Still a little bit of snow on the ground, unfortunately, especially because I think I forgot all my traction. I originally planned on doing that mountain in western New Mexico, and there's no way there was going to be snow there. So, well, guess I'm going to have wet feet. All right, so with the snow, pretty much lost any semblance of a trail. I'm following my GPS right now. I'm not too far from where it's supposed to be, but obviously, for all I know, because the Manzanos have this reputation of not getting a lot of maintenance, for all I know, there is no real trail, and it's just sort of a route up the peak. But in any event, it looks like now that we've started to crest out, there's a lot less snow. I think we just momentarily ended up on a northern slope there, which will probably influence my return trip, because I believe my return trip is solely on northern slope, so I might just go back the way I came. But we're kind of topping out. I'm gonna head this way, which is north, to try to find the trail. Oh, here's where the trail was. Another awesome view. See Sandia Peak on the left. Maybe you can spy a little bit of Redondo sticking out behind it to the left. We have Guadalupe Peak in the foreground to the left, and Mosca Peak, the foreground on the right. It's like Placer Mountain, there we go, Placer Mountain, unsighted right there with the San Pedro Mountains to the right, and then way back there we see mountains up in Santa Fe Baldy, Lake Peak. You can see a little bit of the Truchas Group on my end, you probably can't. And then open plains, the Wild West. That's where it came from. We're going that way, Crest Trail, I think. So we skirt basically the east slopes of the mountain to get on the south side before coming back up. Probably to, oh my goodness, it's fell into like 2.5 feet of snow. Probably to prevent you having to walk through a bunch of downfall. I mean, the name of the peak is Bosque Peak. Bosque translates to forest, and there's a ring of trees around the peak, which is probably where it gets its name. It never really occurred to me that that's why it would be called Bosque Peak. Thought it was maybe just a poetic name referencing the forests in the Manzanos, but no, it definitely references this ring of trees. So we're gonna try to get through this and get around, hopefully on a slope that doesn't have sun. Final push to Bosque Peak, probably 80 vertical feet from the top, maybe a quarter of a mile, and it's living up to its name right now. Okay, I'm like just a little under, or just a little over 100 feet from the true summit of Bosque Peak, but it does not want me to get there. It's so overgrown and so thorny. I think I finally found a good route to get there, but this is extremely thick brush, like non-navigably thick. All right, I believe this is the true summit of Bosque Peak. Nothing looks higher than this. Seems to line up with what I see on my GPS, and all I can say is not worth coming to. Let's go to the fun part, which is this way. Okay, well that was awful. The only way to really get through it is to brace myself against other trees and branches. Just sort of strategically use my body weight to kind of crush things around me, but I am out. So let's go that way and check things out. There's what's colloquially known as North Bosque Peak. It's not really a separate peak in its own right. I don't even think Peakbagger lists it as a peak, even though it's labeled on the Forest Service maps as a peak. But it's definitely not higher than Bosque Peak, which is over here. This is kind of a viewpoint. We just see the incredible view to the southwest, to the southeast, but we've been seeing that. There's Manzano Peak. Don't really know where those peaks are way in the background. We got South Baldy. You can see a little bit of Withington Mountain back there. I think that small one over here, that's sort of unimpressive from this angle, might be a Lakers Mountain. Ladrone Peak, a whole lot of nothing, and Mount Taylor. So just ballparking, if that is a Lakers Mountain, assuming that one of those peaks out there is a P2K, I think that's something like 15 or 16 P2Ks I've seen from this peak. It's about a third in the state, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so despite the wind, it's actually really nice up here. I mean, I feel super comfortable in what I'm wearing. Probably just gonna take the same way back, because I think if I take the other route, I think it takes me on northern slopes, and I'm just a little concerned that it'll be super snowy. And the snow, I mean, this mountain was so easy aside from the snowy patches. So I definitely want to try to minimize snow. Anyway, I guess that's it for me. So, hey, cheers. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully next weekend I'll have a couple new peaks to bring you. See you later. Well, I can see why I lost the trail earlier. Kind of comes up through here, but then there's some pretty bad blowdown right here and unfortunate snow coverage. So I came up here and then went this way when I should have hung right and kept going up. Oh well.